Welcome to Reddit After Hours. This is r/relationship advice, where OP is literally starving herself to pay the bills while her husband keeps going on spending sprees. Our first Reddit post comes from ThrowRadu73, titled, "My daughter, 26, abandoned her son again. How do I help comfort him?" I've raised my daughter mostly as a single mom since my husband died of cancer when she was 6 years old. I took great care of her and I taught her all the right lessons while enforcing discipline but balancing it with fun. When she was 18 years old and still in high school, she became pregnant. I encouraged her to have an abortion as she wasn't ready to take care of a child yet, but she refused, and honestly, it was her decision. When her son was born, though, she kept complaining for a few months about him crying or him wanting attention. She even yelled at me and her son, who's now 8 months old, quite a few times. When he was 6 months old, she just took off, leaving a note saying that she was going to restart her life with a rich boyfriend that she met online. I was devastated, but decided to raise her son as if he were my own. He was truly a blessing. 3 months ago, though, she called me for the first time in years and said that she regretted her decision and wanted to reconnect. I made it very clear that until she proved herself and that she could be responsible, that her child stays with me. Things started off well, but within a few weeks, she went back to complaining and not even showing up to her son's school events again. She again started complaining about how much attention he needs, and I kept firmly reminding her that she has a responsibility. Yesterday, though, she again left as we were sleeping and left another note saying that she couldn't do this and was going to rebuild her life overseas. I told her son that she went to the hospital when the truth is she abandoned me and her kid again. How do I comfort him in a way that he doesn't have to know that his mom abandoned him? OP, that makes me so sad for this kid. He didn't deserve to be abandoned, and you didn't deserve to be abandoned either. I don't know where you went wrong raising her, but that is absolutely a horrible thing to do to your kid, and twice. But even though your kid is 6 years old, I think you would be doing him a total disservice by lying to him, because you don't want him to grow up to resent you also for lying to him and kind of adding to that pain of his mom abandoning him. Because then he's going to feel pain that his mom abandoned him and feel more pain that his family lied to him about it. I'm not saying to tell a 6-year-old that he was abandoned, but I don't know. You're kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place, but I don't think lying to him is good either. One thing you really may want to do, though, is start this kid in therapy early. I feel like he's going to need it and can probably really benefit from it down the road. Like, man, I have one son, and I could not even fathom leaving his side or abandoning him or making him think that daddy's not going to come home. Like, even being in the military is stressful enough, thinking that, they could send me somewhere and I could put that on my family and I don't come back. But, like, willingly abandoning them and leaving my wife and my kid behind, I could never. That just blows my mind. Our next Reddit post comes from Lost Soul 219, titled, "Caught a guy in my girlfriend's bed last night." So last night, me and my girlfriend got into a bit of an argument that she initiated, and then after, I kind of just bit my tongue and apologized to her. She completely ignored the apology and went on about something else. The argument was that I didn't feel comfortable with her hanging out with this guy in her bedroom alone, especially after he made some uncomfortable verbal advances towards her. She then later that night told me that she understood and that she wouldn't have him in her room alone anymore. But when she went MIA for 2 hours, I got a little curious, and something deep inside me kept telling me to go over to her house. It was kind of like an echoing voice in the back of my head saying, go to her house. So eventually, I went over to her house after I got off my second job. And as I pulled in, she texted me saying that she had been reading a book. I text her regularly, like, okay, that's cool. I hope you were enjoying your book. Right after I sent that last text, I walked into her room, and right there, I see this guy that we just had this discussion about laid up in her bed. She tried saying that his ribs were broken and that he needed help, but she's not a nurse or a doctor, so I'm like, what the hell? Why would your friend drop him off at your house? Why not take him to a hospital? He could have internal bleeding or something along those lines. OP, you cannot be Okay. Um, so going on. So obviously I'm upset. I'm losing my mind. He starts talking crap to me and then I end up threatening him, but I didn't hurt anyone, I promise. She just kept saying that he can't afford the hospital, but I mean, man, you're gonna have to go to the hospital over some broken ribs eventually, right? So this was all suspicious from the jump, especially after she just told me that she wouldn't have this guy in her room alone anymore. So she then texted me and said that she knows that she messed up for not telling me, but that she wasn't sorry for it. So I broke up with her right there and then. Mind you, she has a bit of a habit about lying to me about various things, and each time I have broken up with her for something along these lines, she always comes crawling back to me, begging for me to take her back, and practically acting like she's changed. But at this point, I'm so mentally and emotionally exhausted and drained that I don't even want to eat or work. I've only been eating once a day for the last month because of this deep depression that she's now caused me. How do I move on and heal? OP, please tell me you are not gullible enough to think that that's really why he was in bed and that he really had a broken rib. Like, come on, dude. You've got to be smarter than that. This girl sounds like a pathological liar and a serial cheater. I'm glad that, even if you don't realize that he wasn't there just because of a rib, I'm glad you realize that you at least do not deserve this from her or anyone and you left her behind. Part of healing, though, is going to be keeping her behind you and keeping her in your past so that you don't give her more opportunities to hurt you. But you're on the right path, OP. You saw the problem. You dealt with the problem. Now comes the healing part, and that kind of just takes time. Our next Reddit post comes from Those Silly Lips, titled, "My husband, a 35-year-old male, is acting as if he was a romantic teenager who lives in a fairy tale, and I fear for our future. My husband has always acted like a pretty objective man, someone you could always count on to give you a very straightforward answer, even if the answer would be a bit harsh. A realistic man, I guess. I really like this about him, as I'm usually the idealistic or optimistic one. That is, until my husband started making some questionable financial decisions lately. For example, I have an expensive hobby that I hadn't been able to partake in for years because it's expensive and it's done in groups of 2 or more people. He decided to start doing this as well and he loved it. So I'm happy that this is something else that we could share together. But he started wanting to do it almost every single weekend, and to be honest, we couldn't afford it. So I had to be the bad one to tell him that. But okay, it was a one-time thing, no biggie, right? Then my iPhone battery was getting pretty crappy and it would only hold a charge for around 15 minutes without needing to be charged again. I found a used one that we could afford and I bought it. He decided that he also needed to change his phone even though his battery was working just fine and he wanted to get the most expensive one in our country. I was completely against this as it was expensive as hell, but he told me that I was being a, quote, bad partner and not supporting him, so we bought the phone anyway. Then I decided to enroll in a course that could help me get more job opportunities, and he decided that he needed a new gaming PC. His old one worked just fine, and it still works fine. It is as powerful as my gaming PC, and it is able to run all of the games that we usually play. I once again told him to think really hard if this was a need, and he once again told me that I wasn't being supportive. So of course, he bought the PC. A few months ago, he was having a hard time at his job, and he got home saying that he was going to ask to be let go. I asked him to reconsider as we are still paying the installments on our home. I asked him if he could have a talk with his superior and ask for help or advice, but I just begged him not to ask to be let go. He agreed to talk to his boss and ask for suggestions on how to deal with the issue, and then, of course, behind my back, he asked to be let go. Luckily, his boss pretended not to notice it, and everything kind of worked out in the end, but by now, I was really getting worried. He asked for me to cover his part of the bills quite a few times, and of course, I did. I asked for him to have a talk about money and to see where it's all going, and he acted as if me ordering food was the only issue. I later found out that he was giving money to his mom, money that she doesn't need, while I was literally starving myself to cover his part of the bills. I told him how betrayed I felt, and he told me that all I thought about was money. I told him that someone had to think about it, and he clearly wasn't. And he insisted that I wasn't supporting him as a partner and that I should have supported him in all of his spending and in asking to be let go of his job. This just all feels so surreal for me. Am I being unreasonable? He says that even if we had to live under a bridge, that he would go with me. But the truth is, I don't want to live under a bridge. I work my butt off to be able to afford myself a good home. And the way he talks about this sounds like a lot when I was 15 years old, but we're both in our mid-30s now. I can't imagine someone saying this as if this isn't something to worry about. Am I the one that's out of touch with reality here? OP, you are absolutely not out of touch with reality. He has a serious spending problem and he needs to get it under control, especially if you're the only one that's making sacrifices and he's not making any sacrifices himself. That sounds like a huge red flag to me. And just reading the comments on this post, it sounds like you have a long history of toxic behavior with this guy. And I don't mean to sound like that guy, but just based on the comments and how many times you've posted about like infidelity, financial issues, manipulation issues with this guy, I really think it's time for you to find some professional help and cut your losses here. You shouldn't be the only one making sacrifices in your relationship. Relationships are 50-50. And if you're the only one making sacrifices and he's putting 100% of the burden on you, then you can take 100% of the burden by yourself. You don't need another person to support to take all that burden and do everything by yourself. Our next Reddit post comes from Throra Raleigh Kali, titled, "My wife tested positive for chlamydia." We have been married for roughly 10 years at this point. Things haven't been great the past few years, but we are both actively working on making our relationship better. She springs on me today that she just got word from her doctor that she tested positive for BV and, more significantly to me, chlamydia. Cue the "do you have anything you need to tell me" talk. I genuinely have never touched another person during our relationship. She says the only two ways that she could have gotten it is if I was unfaithful, which definitely didn't happen, or that she borrowed her friend's passionate hugging toys back in December. I have not been tested yet. However, after searching online, I do have symptoms in line with chlamydia. I've been sick lately, so I was just chalking it up to that, but I guess maybe not. She said that the doctor said that the BV swab could show a false positive for chlamydia, so she is getting retested in a few days. But after connecting the dots, I would be very surprised if it was a false positive. I desperately want to believe that this is a mistake or because of the sharing of passionate hugging toys to me. That's a very strange excuse to me, but I'm not a female, so I don't know. I wish I was more confident, but things have been hit or miss for the past few years as we were working out some issues. She has, in the past few months, become increasingly attached to her phone, posting numerous stories on Snapchat per day, messaging people on Snapchat, etc. At this point, I fear that I'm overanalyzing, but I'm not sure where to go or what to do from here. Obviously, I'm hoping for a false positive, but given my symptoms, I don't have much hope there. Is it possible to get it from sharing passionate hugging toys? Is that even something that people do? And then we have a little update from OP where he answers some questions from the comments. So, to answer some questions, no, this is not AI. Yes, she accused me, asking if I had anything to tell her. She seemed very angry and then suddenly switched to very sorry, then slightly annoyedish, and has remained that way so far. I have not made any accusations and I have not reciprocated the question. Yes, I have an appointment to get myself tested tomorrow, so we will see how that goes. No, we have not been in contact with koalas. For context, her friend is a female. She first said it was either you that gave it to me or the female friend. I was unhappy with that as she joked about girl on girl before, and I did tell her that I still consider that cheating. She shortly afterwards clarified that she had been drinking and borrowed one of her sex toys. I haven't asked for the details of that yet. Also, we have always had a great passionate hugging life. We have children, cars, a house, and everything like that together. It would be extremely difficult to untangle our lives. not to mention very financially impactful. I guess I was/am clinging on to the hope that this is still somehow not what it very obviously seems to be. It has been years since I've been tested, and I've never felt the need to be, as I've never been unfaithful, nor have I had any glaring obvious symptoms or even thought that she would be unfaithful. And then OP gives one final update. First off, I got tested this morning. According to the lab, it will take 2 to 3 days to get the lab results back. Second, another big red flag that came to me in an afterthought is why, assuming that there is a false positive, why would she not want to immediately get retested instead of waiting a few days for her next appointment? Third, I've seen some comments about dormancy. We've been together for about 10 years, and it seems exceptionally unlikely that it would stay dormant and that we would both be asymptomatic for such a long time. Additionally, we do have children together. To my understanding, she would have been tested during each pregnancy. It was never mentioned or brought up, and I was at 99% of all of her appointments for each pregnancy. This leads me to the conclusion that she contracted it sometime after our last child. The two scenarios left are that she either cheated with another man and wholly lied about the whole passionate toy hugging incident, or there's more to this passionate hugging toy incident that is not being told to me. I'm refraining from any questioning or accusations until my test results come back. It will be easy enough to verify if her friend gave it to her, as there's a relationship on that end that would be ruined if that were the case. OP, her saying that she contracted it from using another friend's passionate hugging toy is the male version of saying, "No, baby, I would never cheat on you. I must have gotten it by sitting on a toilet seat." Like, come on, OP. First of all, women do not share those type of toys unless they're themselves in a relationship. So, I don't know, OP. The more likely conclusion is that she absolutely stepped on you. And unfortunately, I really think this marriage is dead, because once one person cheats on the other, at least in my mind, there's no going back. In any case, OP, I wish the best for you, and I hope you figure it out. That was Reddit After Hours, bringing you r/relationship advice. Thank you all so much for listening, and if you like that video, like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below for any future Reddit subs that you would like us to cover, as we post new Reddit videos almost every single day.